Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. We are got a very special guest today. We've got James Heffron of the head brewer. Can I say that right, James? Of the Verdant Brewery, hailing from Cornwall. And honestly, I'm so excited for this episode. And James, you have very kindly supplied us with quite a few lovely, tasty beverages that we're going to go through and chat about. So, James, I'd love to hand the mic over to you and just kind of say hi.
Hi. Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. And I personally didn't send the beers to you; someone else did, and they've done a wonderful job at that. So it seems.
Hats off to Tim. I think you've got your people to talk to our people.
No, it's great. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be asked to do these kinds of things, and I'm always surprised that people want to listen to me waffle on about stuff. So here we go.
That's exactly the same reaction we got when we realised people actually listen to us.
Yeah,
so that's
took them a few weeks to start off with, to be fair, as well.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good to talk.
It is, and I think people are probably going to be way more interested to hear you talk than it is for us on it. So we're actually very excited to get you going on this. So talk to us, I guess, James. So Verdant, I mean, you guys started in 2014 and, from my perspective, exploded. I think you guys hit the scene, and every time I've tried a Verdant beer, I've been blown away by it. And what would you, I guess, kind of say, how have things kind of been this kind of 2014 to where we are now?
Personally speaking, it's always felt incredibly right and natural is the easiest way of putting it. I don't know, surely you guys have done stuff in your lives where it's just felt inherently correct. So if you can think of experiences like that, whether that's professional, private, or whatever it is, this is how this still feels to me. I can't speak for the other founders, Rich and Adam as well. We all experience it differently, but yeah, I've just, from a flavour and recipe perspective, it's just been an absolute joy from start to now. The company was formed in September 2014. There was a good couple of years prior to that where we were trying, home brewing, trying different things, and generally just getting very excited about these new hop flavors that were suddenly seemed to be everywhere, even down in deepest, darkest Cornwall. And I came from a catering background. My wife and I set up a little catering business, making falafels, and it was all very, very successful. She's from the Middle East, and it was just all this product all based around explosive flavor. And that sort of experience of starting a small business with very low overheads, it was super exciting. And I think it's difficult for me to underestimate how much confidence that gave me to do it again in the beer world. And that's kind of it was really a very easy equation. It was like, I'm obviously super interested in flavour, strong flavours, and this belief that if it's really exciting to me, then it's going to be exciting to other people as well. And that's what led me to brewing, immediately filling the freezer up with hops at home, and literally overnight, suddenly we didn't have any freezer space. And then fermenting, under the stairs, and here all over dotted around. Even my eldest kid, Robin, who's 11 now, he remembers these buckets and stuff dotted around the house, which I think is really amazing, that's actually part of the family history, so to speak.
Rudimentary brewing kit adds flavour, right? This is
yeah. And it's so cool. The little catering experience previously was, I think I started to really enjoy buying ingredients in bulk. So sacks of chickpeas, Middle Eastern pitters bought by the thousand, like cucumbers, all this sort of stuff, and then turning it into this product. that was then sold. And in that particular business, it was, here's the thing, you handed over the cash, and you got to know the person, and also there was this lovely rapport, and also you saw them really enjoy the product. So it's slightly different now, because it's rare that you actually... the tap room's interesting because you kind of get that thing going on. I get stopped a lot downstairs where people are like, okay, you're James from Verdant. There's lots of questions and we talk about it all. And there's still that excitement about flavour. But it's now it's a aluminium can, and it gets popped in a box and it goes everywhere. Yeah. My own approach to it all is exactly the same. It's about trusting the fact that other people are going to really enjoy the exciting flavours, and that's it. So that I just tried to never lose sight of that.
I'm intrigued. So when was like the kind of eureka moment when you were kind of like, well, this is going really well for us. These beers are fantastic. People are really responding to it. Was there one point you were kind of like, we've got something here, we're going to really pursue and we're really going to push it?
Stupidly confident. We've all been, from a flavour perspective, I've never been short of this egotistical confidence of like, I'm pretty sure we can wallop more flavour into these beers than anyone else, that kind of thought process. In terms of a particular moment, I think there was always that confidence, which is important to have. Otherwise, you'll just be doubting everything at every turn. You've got to kind of be blindly going for something. But I remember watching this hazy New England thing happen, and that would have been 2012, 2013, seeing Hill Farmstead, Alchemist, Treehouse. I remember Treehouse being really interesting because they seemed to be about a year ahead of where we were, maybe 2 years. So where they were upscaling from a little homebrew thing to 1,000 litres, we were just starting the homebrewing, and it's kind of following suit. I think very different scale. Treehouse are completely crazy with what they're doing now, but it was really interesting to be brewing in a shipping container at the time. Weekly, whilst we were all holding down other jobs, looking at this beer style develop and evolve over the other side of the Atlantic, and it just wasn't here. Yeah. It wasn't here, and I just from a visual perspective, I remember seeing these very hazy but incredibly unctuous looking drinks popping up on the brewery's websites. I can't even remember if Instagram was a thing then. I don't think it was it?
Sounds a bit early for Instagram, doesn't it?
It sounded like maybe like early doors to it.
Maybe there's only sort of 4 or 5 people on it at the time.
I can't even remember where I was gathering this information.
Must have been MySpace. MySpace just ruled the world before Instagram came on.
Or just visions and dreams. They were just coming to you. It was
it was visions and dreams. Far too much LSD, obviously. And it was so obvious that we were ahead of the game. Like, it was happening over there, literally thousands of miles away, and the beer scene in the UK was really developing at quite a pace, but it was about 10 years behind what was going on in the States. And I think we were very fortunate with our timing. There was probably some skill in there as well, but let's be honest, it's lots of times in business it's about being fortunate. Yeah, we just got the timing right, but we also, so when we were in the shipping container, so it started in I remember brewing loads in my kitchen. I think Adam was brewing in his basement, etc. And then we moved to a 20-foot shipping container in a quarry. We weren't selling beer at this time. We were just
making.
Yeah. We were just
experimenting.
We were just making beer and experimenting. Etc.
Is this in Penryn, James?
The quarry was Trenoith Business Park. It's like a couple of miles outside Penryn.
that area.
Yeah, and you know it.
No. Oh, the quarry, of course. But nearby. But you guys have moved too far, is what I meant.
You guys don't know this, but Matt's got another podcast where he talks all about famous quarries around the UK.
That one sounds far more interesting than this one. No, I'm joking. This one's interesting.
The listenership for Quarry Pod is ridiculous. You wouldn't believe it. We dig deep into the big matters.
And so you should, absolutely. And gosh, we just ploughed on with it in the shipping container, like doing all these test brews, doing single hop beers, and then developing this New England style with a certain strain of yeast that's now become, after mutation, become our own house yeast, that then anyone can buy this yeast in the world now. It's like, it's really mad. And I think, it was this really lovely combination of being savvy, confident, but also very fortunate. And so by the time we actually started selling beer, we were already very proficient within the hazy style, but also very proficient in the sort of less hazy, cleaner style as well. So and we actually made a name for ourselves with Light Bulb, Headband, which is still, we make Light Bulb's the biggest, in terms of volume beer that we make. Headband's still made every month at least. And they've barely changed in recipe, but they use Chico yeast, which is a classic West Coast yeast. They're sort of they straddle the coasts basically. But behind the scenes, we'd been working with LA3, this English yeast that's creates this juicy, fluffy feel and all this saturation, like exactly like you're drinking now. I can see on the screen. And so behind the scenes, we'd developed a skill set and beers, and we were ready to go. But what we didn't have was the ability to harvest the wet. So to buy that yeast in for the New England ales at the time, it was so expensive, and so we couldn't just like buy the pitch, make the beer, and then throw the yeast away. It would have made the beer insanely expensive. So we were reliant on dry yeast, so that you could buy dry Chico yeast. It was very reliable. So the beers were kind of forced to be a certain kind of style. And then I remember the moment we got conical fermenters. That was when we moved from the site. After the shipping container, we were in another place. And then we moved to the next place. Then we could start to harvest the yeast. And then that would have been 2016. And then we kind of really hit the ground running with, okay, here's our New England IPA output. And it was just like, boom, there you go, world, bosh. And it wasn't like releasing beers and not knowing what we were doing. They were fully formed. We'd done 2 years of research and practical research, and then we started chucking them out into the world. And I think that was it. And we always try to be very consistent with the quality of our output.
I think that's fast. There's so much. Thank you so much, James, for all that. There's so much things to unpack.
If you want me to shut up, just stick your finger.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Oh, please, that was so unlikely. But just to jump on something, the last thing you said, and then I can maybe go back to something else about yeast that I was dying to ask you while you were talking about it. But the last thing you were talking about having something that's quite consistent with your brewing, and I think that's something that we've taken for granted for as consumers, is those kind of like the brewing styles of breweries that you can. It's almost like there's like a red thread within their beers that it's from a certain, like maybe of a blind taste test, you can taste that it's like got a red thread through the thing. And I'm tasting 3 of your beers here, and I can tell that these are like they're from you guys. And I think that's fantastic. I think the fact that that's like a different level of like brand kind of awareness is the fact that from a taste perspective that it's who you're drinking basically.
I think we've definitely the 3 beers that we're drinking now and we sent through, these are all fermented with our Verdant yeast, so there will be a character there just from the fermentation, but they're also insanely hoppy. But I think you're right. We're kind of well known, especially in the UK, for that kind of house character when people drink our beers where we use Verdant yeast and they're really saturated, hazy IPAs. There's a certain character where people know that that's a Verdant beer, and that could be our yeast is in the world, so anyone can use it, and people all over the UK use it, all around the world use it, but I do think that people can still pick our beers out in a blind taste. I haven't figured out exactly what it is we're doing to make that happen. I'm not going to hide behind some kind of false science. I don't know. It's like there are so many things. It's not prescriptive. You can't just it's not just based on spreadsheets. It's human beings doing amazing things. I'm doing this because I'm looking at the brewery. Sorry, I'm not just mad.
James, I just quite thought that you might have like the whole of your brewing staff just lined up in front of you, and you're just like waving to them.
Yeah, I thought I was wearing that new Apple thing.
The vision.
So it's really, the minutiae part of all of this is all about human beings and tweaking and refining processes. Sometimes the smallest little changes that you think are insignificant, they can't possibly have an effect on the beer in terms of quality or impact or punch and that kind of stuff, can have a huge effect in either direction, positive or negative. And it's, I think, there's a lot of passionate people that now work with us. So, and that's priceless, basically. Right, we're nearly 60. If you include the site like the tap room, the seafood bar, and we just started a small residency for the summer in the North Coast, St Agnes, in a bar there, we're definitely around 60 employees. So it's, from going, it really is a company that's about humans now, more than anything.
So I really do have to ask. I'm looking at the 3 cans that you guys have sent us, and the artwork on these cans is absolutely phenomenal. I'm looking at the one I've got is the É Soul Cultura. Am I pronouncing that right? Or absolutely butchering it? I think this is probably one of the most complex beer can designs I think I've ever seen. And I keep looking at it and I keep seeing something different every single time. Is this designed by somebody on your staff, or is this you've hired somebody in?
You've actually got a really good mix here. So the 3 cans you've been sent through are they're designed by they're not designed by 3 different people. Like James Wright, our main designer, he's bringing it all together and turning it into a label. But in terms of the Luke Una collab, this one, it's Luke's artworks. It's from his LP, which is available on a web shop. Get in there. So it's that artwork that's been put onto the label, and it's just amazing, isn't it? And we really, that's a really important part of collaborations, is to not just collaborate on the recipe, it's to collaborate on other levels if possible. So artwork is a great example of that. And then you've got this one here, the DIPA, which was it started out life as a collab with Other Half from Brooklyn. There Was No Why. This one was brought together and designed by Adam, one of the founders. So when we first started Verdant, I was recipe guy, I still am. Rich was make things work guy, and Adam was design and sales guy. Those were the things, it was like a Venn diagram, and that's why it worked. So that's Adam. And then Sundialer is James Wright, our dude now, our main dude, who does, he's a label machine. He's amazing, does so many different things, posters, labels, flyers, anything we need. Is quite stunning what James manages to pull together and work with other people as well. It's just incredible, and it's easy to forget quite how incredible that is, to be honest. And it's when you're I find that it's when I'm talking about it, it's like doing a brewery tour, for example, or talking about the labels now or the history of Verdant. It's not until you actually vocalize it that you yourself, as in me in this instance, actually realize what the hell's happened here. Because it's only until you talk, you vocalize it, to get it out of your head to people who aren't within the company, that you realize the journey that's happened. I think it's pretty mind-blowing.
I quite like that. That almost sounds like you're almost a successful band, because you've got a really good guitarist, you've got a great drummer, a bassist who absolutely slaps, and
Yeah.
a main dude. Bring all those things together, and it all kind of works.
I don't know who the main dude is.
I just won that title after I think you said James was your dude. So.
Oh yeah, James. Let's say James Wright's the main dude, the designer. James is Mick Jagger or whatever. Yeah.
Nice. He's going to love that, I'm sure.
I guess it is a bit like a band, and I don't know. I've never been in a band. Have you been in a band?
I was only in a brass band when I was in high school. So.
Oh right, what did you play?
I played the tuba, that really cool instrument.
The tuba. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool.
All the girls running after him. Yeah. No, to be fair, you could blow a good tuba.
I could blow a
good
tuba, but then I turned 18 and realised sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of took over.
They do with all tuba players, really.
Yeah.
That's nothing, mate. When I was in primary school, I learned how to play that Titanic song on a recorder. So,
Wow, that's a talent.
Need I say more?
One-handed.
Or no? Not for that song, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Three Blind Mice, you had it down with one hand.
Yeah. Do that no-handed.
A classic.
The recorder has to be up there as one of the most annoying instruments in the world.
Yeah, I was torn. I had to either pick between that or the bagpipes, so I went with the recorder.
Bagpipes are pretty crap, but at least they've got a historical perspective. I'm
Some
not
people
sure
are impressed by
where the hell does the recorder fit into anything?
Honestly, I think it's like a cruel joke someone played to say every person between the ages of 3 up to the age of 5 needs to have this annoying instrument and learn how to play it in some respects. I don't know who decided that was the right idea, but that just seems to be the case across the UK.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
It's all right, Joe. When your daughter turns 3, that's her first birthday present. So
yeah, thank you. Uncle Rich will get her all the annoying presents. Yeah. I got that. That's fine. Understood. Right, James, I want to go back to your location in Cornwall, and obviously coming up as like a craft brewer. A craft brewer in kind of the terms, obviously a newer brewer, right? Did you find the atmosphere from other breweries in the area? Obviously, I'm thinking, St. Albans, the big guys in your area.
Yeah.
Were they receptive to you guys? Did you find any kind of pushback for you kind of muscling in as kind of a new player in this space, or what was the kind of did you have any relationship there? I suppose where I'm kind of getting to.
Well, I'd say it wasn't until sort of COVID time, so 2020, 2021, that we had any considerable presence in the county. Just the company didn't grow for the first 7 years of its life with any reliance on Southwest sales. It's just bonkers. Not through any kind of deliberate strategy. It was just when we were producing and selling 12 30-litre kegs a week, so 6 kegs per batch. So we used to package 6 30 litres of light bulb and 6 30 litres of headband. This would have been in 2015, I think, in the third site, if you include our kitchens. And these 12 kegs went to Bristol, London, and Belfast, and that was it. These small bar in Bristol, a bar in Belfast, and I can't remember the name of the pub in London. And that was it. It just went there. Those were the destinations. It wasn't anything to do with trying to get our beer out in Cornwall. So we didn't have any. It was already gone. But then the snowball had already been formed in the community just through these outlets, and then it was just kind of got pushed down the hill, and just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the rest of the UK wanted more of the beer, and we just found that we didn't have the time or the resources in equipment, humans, whatever, to focus on Cornwall as a place to be selling or pushing the sales of our beer. And it's only since we've moved to this production site we're in now, that we moved to in 2019, that's got enough capacity so we can brew enough beer to satisfy the demand and growing demand.
Yes. Okay.
Beyond the Southwest, and also devote salespeople, time, effort, and have the resources in terms of beer to offer to the Southwest as well. We also export beer. It goes to a lot of different countries now. Incredible. And, it's just, it's nuts. So it wasn't, no, there's not been I don't remember any moment in the history of Verdant where we've had a beef of any kind with any brewery in the Southwest. In fact, we've got a collab coming up with St Austell. So I think they're brewing we're brewing a beer at theirs in August, and then we're doing a return leg here. I'm not sure, we haven't nailed down when we're doing the return leg, but that's pretty exciting. And then we've I love St Austell's beers. Proper Job was one of the total gateway. Like, I couldn't get over how grapefruity that beer was when it used to be like, I think it used to be 5% on the pumps. I think it's 4.5 now draft. But I remember 2010, 2011, downing pints of that and just being like, where the is that grapefruit coming from?
I can't believe how game-changing Proper Job was. Yeah. You think back to it, just like for us, that was such a different beer at the time from an established brewery as well. Like, they had really nailed it. Yeah. For what the emerging kind of consumer taste buds, or like what we think we want from this, and just kind of like stepped it up. I love that.
Yeah,
love that thing.
It's like that beer is a love letter to Chinook hops, basically.
Some very good hops.
I think it's just a really great beer, and it's still a really great beer. So yeah, I've got a lot of time for St Austell, and just regional, like true regional breweries like that, which are still family owned, and they haven't sold out to AB InBev or something. That's amazing. So the other collab that's going in the works at the moment is with Adnams.
Okay,
fantastic.
Nice. So we've got we're brewing with Adnams at their gaff it's looking like September, I think. And the same thing, we're going to do a return leg here somewhere in the autumn, I think. And these are, to me, like some of the most exciting collabs, basically.
Adnams is fascinating. I mean, I've been to Southwold. I've been and experienced the Adnams way of doing it, and I love it. They've got a soft spot in my heart, I think, as a brewer.
Oh yeah, they're super old as well, aren't they? They've
been here one of the oldest UK breweries, and that's fascinating. But the fact that they've always been an innovator in this space as well, I think, is fascinating.
Yeah.
As you said, you mentioned the big AB. And this is kind of a company that regularly obviously appears on this podcast because everyone and their dog is owned by this monolith nowadays. So we love to highlight the kind of companies that are still doing it their way, and still keeping that, and I love that.
Well, I think it's really important. The really truly mass-produced beers that are owned by the breweries that are owned by AB InBev or Heineken or whatever, there is a place for that kind of beer. I drink those beers occasionally as well. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. But I would say, by definition, they're less interesting. In all facets. They're less interesting. Unless you're super geeky about clinical process or the super tight tolerances in the color of a beer and the flavor and stuff, but it just saps all the excitement out of it. We don't try. So we're in a position now, as an example, to select our hops because we contract over a certain tonnage per variety. So for Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe, Strata, Galaxy, to an extent with Galaxy, we can actually choose our hops, and that means that you either embrace fluctuations in year-on-year growth. It's a natural product, so Galaxy this year or Simcoe this year is going to be different to Simcoe next year, or where it's grown. And there's different approaches to this. You can either be fascinated with the variation and embrace it, or you can be fearful of it and say that, it's going to fuck up our product and people are going to notice that they're like light bulbs changed or headbands changed or something. And the moment that it becomes that, I'm bored So for me, it's all about remaining excited. So it's like, this is the Simcoe 2023 harvest from that farm. And it's like, I've never smelt Simcoe that smelt like peaches, but that's the Simcoe I want. And that's going in all the beers for Simcoe now. That's where we're at. We always want to remain excited about whatever we're doing. And I think if if you get engulfed any other way with any other ideals beyond remaining excited about it, then it's just kind of a spiral towards what exactly? I don't know.
Throw in my second bad analogy of the episode was you struck me as the kind of person you're having like you're having a takeaway. You're having the same thing every week. Yeah. No, you try something else. You never know. You might hit on an absolute winner.
Yeah.
Whereas you can be very happy with the same thing over and over and over again, but you never know if you're going to give something else a go, right?
Yeah.
But I love as well that in that point as well, Angie, Matt, is that it's with what you guys are doing with Verdant is it's not just about, you want to go and have a madras from the place across the street. It's like, you can have the madras from your favorite place, but it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps bringing you back.
Yeah.
It's not always the same thing. And I love that. I think, and again, going back to the further comment we were talking about before, it's still got this red thread that is just through and through your beer.
Yeah.
But it's a ever so slightly every single time. And I just think that is, as a product, that is something that is, like fashion brands strive to achieve, is the fact this whole drop strategy where you can only have it for a limited time and blah blah and all this craziness that goes around it. But the fact that you do that already just naturally, that's marketing gold. Obviously you can see where I work in marketing and sales, and I'm going, Jesus, I see it.
Yeah, wow. Don't run with that Verdant Madras idea though. Personally,
well, you never know. Well, you could kind of go with the perfect beer to accompany a Madras.
Well, this brings me to a very important question. I've been trying homebrewing myself recently. Yeah. I've entered into the homebrewing. In all honesty, I'm not that great at it, and
too modest, honestly.
And I'm sure you're great at it. Like, why you?
No, don't humour him, James, please. Honestly, don't encourage this behaviour.
So I created and I gave and we did a whole episode around with So I created some beers, and then we did an episode around on my homebrew, and I created a chili beer. It might have been too much chili. Some would say that it's, but is there a place in the market for a chili beer that's maybe a bit too much?
Are you talking about chili temperature, or are you talking about chili spice?
Oh, chili spice. I'm talking kind of like coughing when you drink it.
I'm being facetious.
Oh yeah.
So there's loads of chili beers out there, but whether there are chili beers out there that are taking it to the extreme and there's a place for that, I don't know. I've personally always struggled a little bit with beers with chili in. They kind of often get paired with chocolate stouts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was not a chocolate. It was an IPA. So
interesting. Was it an IPA that tasted sort of coconutty and limey and like a Thai curry? Because that could have worked.
No, it literally tasted like chili, which is the worst part. It's just quite painful.
Like Tabasco kind of thing.
But maybe you could just use it as an ingredient in cooking.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Adding sugar. It's like a stock.
I think I said this at the time. A beer batter for fish and chips.
Yeah,
with a bit of chili.
Exactly.
I reckon.
Perfect.
We found a place for it, guys. I didn't think that was possible.
There's a gap in the market for canned beers that are specifically for additions to your cookery.
Okay.
Has anyone done that?
No.
Well, you're looking at one from Weymouth right now. It's all.
You get those you get chicken stock things, don't you? And you pop the little gel things out. They're actually really good. Yeah. So maybe there's that or it's that's the IPA or the red ales going in the stew, and it's marketed like that, little like slimline tonic style cans. Okay, I think we're hitting on something. Should we start a company?
That's actually a genius idea.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Which
If
we're going to work on the
in.
business plan.
Yeah.
We'll send it over to James to have a look over
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
But I think this is great. We'll go to market next week. That sounds great.
There you go.
Do that, mate. That's perfect.
Perfect. Highly carbonated for nice fluffy batter.
That's the one, yeah.
I've got one more. The thing is, you kind of answered it a little bit earlier on. I was going to ask you your favourite non-Verdant beer. I think you kind of touched on that with St. Austell's and Proper Job. I don't know, any honourable mentions that you would go to as well?
Yeah, I think so. So let me have a go. Favourite non-Verdant beers. I've got a huge soft spot for Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Yeah.
Fan favourite here as well.
I love that.
Great beer.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the gateway ones for me, and I would happily, I do still buy that in the bottle. I just think it's lovely. Yeah, I think it would be, some breweries where you can't really get them here, but I've been fortunate enough to drink them. So I've always really enjoyed the output from Russian River Brewing in California. So Pliny the Elder, that kind of stuff. Blind Pig. It's just beautifully balanced and clean Westies. I've really enjoyed and always enjoy output from The Alchemist up in Vermont. I think my favourite one from The Alchemist is Focal Banger. Citra Mosaic, it's always just a beautiful IPA. In terms of the UK, I just love a good bitter. I love
interesting.
When Timothy Taylor is on song and doesn't, when I say on song, it's like the diastole is dialed down, and it's
listening, Rich?
And it's got that lovely. It's just good condition and stuff. I think it's a beautiful pint.
I'm so glad you said that.
This is the best thing that's happened to this podcast ever, honestly. Because we're leading you into this, James, because these guys have had an ongoing back and forth about Timothy Taylor
polite
in particular,
disagreement.
And I'm pleased that you can weigh in here as a heavyweight on the.
I don't class me as a heavyweight. It's just everyone's got their own opinions, haven't they? I think Timmy Taylor does vary because it kind of lives or dies by that diastole buttery thing.
Mm.
Sometimes it's quite full on, and sometimes I think it needs it to a little bit in there. It kind of works, but when it's got that balance just right, it's really beautiful.
Mm.
And with Adnams, it's broadside, specifically bottled broadside, which is I think 6%. It's just stupendous raisiny, pruny thing, So that UK and really English cask brewing heritage. There's some absolute stunners there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think what else. Oh, lagers. Hell, I love good German lagers.
Well, apparently they're coming back. So
they are. They are honestly good. For me, it's all about Munich style Hellers, the Tegernsee and Augustiner and Eyinger. Any output from those three are just so good.
I want to ask you on that, what do you think are the styles of beers that you're seeing are going to come back in the next couple of years? Above we've seen, red beers, for example, have really taken on a life of their own in the last couple of years.
Sours
taken an interest. Sours obviously has exploded.
I think it's not so much specific styles. I think it's doing the style, existing styles justice. So by that I mean really bringing the level of consistency up. So I touched on the whole embracing variability in different ingredients year on, or the same ingredient but different crop years, for example. I totally agree with that. But the counter to that is trying to be very, very consistent in the overall quality of the product. So I think that whether it's UK lager production, for example, it would be not just more lagers from breweries, it would be better quality lagers from UK breweries. And so transpose that to any beer style across the world, I would hope, and I think that's really where we're moving. There might be some brand new styles coming out, but it's the biggest buzz I get is seeing comments about our beers and consistency, in terms of consistently exciting, consistently this, consistently Verdant. I very rarely see comments about people saying, oh, light bulbs changed, or this is no longer this. It's always, I think, people are up for embracing all those fluctuations, but you live or die by the quality of the output. They're two different things.
Well, I've tried the 3 beers you guys sent us tonight, and the consistency across all 3, I've enjoyed every single one. There's not been one I've gone, you know what, that's not hit the mark. I've drank every single one in a space of about an hour, which is probably not great for my sleep pattern later. But luckily I'm not working tomorrow. But
nice.
I've enjoyed every single one, and I've gone, you know what, that it's tasted there's been a different taste for each one, and I've gone, you know what, I've enjoyed each different variant that in each can. So yeah, there's genuinely hats off to you for these 3. They are fantastic.
To build on that as well, James, I think I've drunk Verdant, since I first had it in London. I want to say like 4 years ago. Now, I was maybe that one pub that you said that you sent to at that point, and it's still mind blowing the beer that you guys are producing, because it just is so full of flavour.
Yeah.
And I think that's what anyone who's going to consume your beers is going to take away from this as a lasting kind of memory of your beers, is how flavoursome they are. It makes so much more sense with your background and what you try to put into your beers, if that's what you're trying to achieve, because this is the kind of anyone that's kind of, I talk to who says, what is the kind of craft beers that we would recommend, or kind of beers that we recommend? Your guys' list you're always on the top list, because it's like, if you want something that's always going to be solid and it's always going to give you, no matter if you're going to introduce another friend to it, get a Verdant in, because it's going to be solid. And I think it goes back to what you were talking about, that consistency that you're looking to achieve, and I think you're getting it every single time.
Oh wow! Oh, they're super kind words. Thank you very much. That's honestly, that just makes me feel lovely. And if I'll let everyone know that if they listen or don't listen to this podcast, I'll make sure that people hear these kind words. It does mean a lot,
Please do pass that on to your brewing team, because I think you guys are doing some fantastic stuff now.
Well, we're very fortunate. We got a lot of good humans involved in Verdant. They passionately care about the products. That's priceless, really. I mean, it's. What else can you achieve beyond that? I'm not really sure. It's like the rest is history. If you've got that in place, then where you can go anywhere you want.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe,
Rich,
Barbara, and Simo,
goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.